quick review. This is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
I didn't know what to expect in the sense of, for one, I've never read The Odyssey, so there's that. Didn't know the story for real. And so 3 hours worth of material, I honestly thought it was gonna be very lackluster, very drawn out for no reason. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I don't know if being here so early, our movie was at 8:40 a.m. and it was so empty and we had a smaller theater. But honestly, the movie was amazing. I don't care what nobody else thinks. Yeah, the folks go love it or hate it just for rage bait, whatever. To me, I feel as though it really makes you see the lack that goes into movies nowadays. Like the lack of proper storytelling and really giving enough detail. Like how much thought went into the plot and how not drawn out as in like, overstretched, but like drawn out is the wrong word. Thorough. And it makes you wonder. Of course, we know capitalism is a really big reason as to why things are just pushed out. I mean, that's in every aspect of entertainment. But it really makes you see, or me at least, see what is missing, as well as see why so many people were drawn to want to go see this movie. It was amazing. I enjoyed all 3 hours. I ate during the entire movie. Usually I'm, eating my food in the beginning and then just watching, the rest. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I never had to get up. Usually I'm also one that has to get up to go to the bathroom at least once. I must have been thoroughly entertained because I never had to get up. And I was able to, eat a little bit, put it down, and just watch. Eat a little bit, put it down, and just watch. I don't know. I was amazed. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. For the people that says Zendaya was only going to be in for 5 seconds, you were wrong. May have been just a couple minutes when you put it all together. It was more than 5 seconds. And the significance of her as to why she was there, love that. Again, attention to detail. I love that. That kept me very engaged because I really used to love to read growing up, and I could read when Twilight was huge. I was one of the people in middle school that was reading it. When it was 700 and some pages, I used to be, of the last book, I used to be the person that would rush to my next class so that before class would start, I could read a page or two just to see what's going to happen next. And when I read things, I could see them. And that's very much what it gave. As a reader, this is something that I would read. Of course, it came from a book. But I mean, again, even then, there's not always this much detail when it comes to books that turns into movies. Even with Twilight, there were certain details that I as a reader were like, dang it, I wish they put this little, nugget in, yada yada yada. Even seeing the Argus nugget that someone else mentioned on social media of, really hoping that they had that moment and that significance in there, and it was there, and I was able to catch it, and I was like, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm a yapper. You can tell I enjoyed it because I'm yapping. So
10 stars, 10 out of 10 all around. I loved it. So like you said, this movie makes you really realize the importance and the value of building your craft slowly and putting the same amount of care into every aspect. There was a lot of critiques early on in the movie about the armor. There was something about people were saying it's not accurate to the time period, and they could have made actual armor out of the real materials that they use in those times, but instead they cut corners or something else with it.
Detail.
It's
the
this
plot.
This movie is a it's a masterclass in almost every aspect. The dialogue, that was another thing people was hating on. They was hating on the dialogue because it's set back in those days and people were talking in ways that are like more modernized. But you know, like there was a lot in terms of how you convey character and plot. There was a lot of care put into the dialogue, a lot of care put into the actors who played certain characters felt very intentional. I don't know who did the casting for this movie, but you can tell they may have actually like read the original Odyssey before they
Which
cast
I think is
the
important.
people in the roles they were in. It is important, and
even from a director's standpoint,
like,
you know, like
even with like the Argus aspect, if you were just trying to recreate the Odyssey for modern audiences, oh, it's a movie, you would not have put that aspect in it. But you can tell Christopher Nolan he's trying to take the book and remake it in the modern day. Like, this is not just Odyssey was a great story, let's bring it back for a cash grab. No, this was
exactly
if the Odyssey was told today and it had to be condensed into a 3-hour movie, which is crazy to say, but for the Odyssey, a 3-hour movie is condensing it. If it had to be condensed into a 3-hour movie, this is what it would be. So much, it felt like respect to the original story and just the storytelling in general. Christopher Nolan, it's crazy. This is like, I don't know, it brought up something interesting for me. I was thinking to myself, like, what directors, writers, whatever, would we trust to recreate ancient stories in the modern day?
That's a great question. That's a beautiful question.
Because, like, you know, before seeing this movie, I may have had different answers, but seeing this movie, I'm like, there's no one else that could have told the Odyssey. Yeah, man, the casting was just great. What's that girl's name? Zendaya. She was definitely not in it just for 5 seconds, and she had a very important role.
Yes.
Oh, did you rate it?
No. I would rate it a 10 out of 10. And I say that because I feel as though in this day and age, which is a point that I did want to make, in this day and age, so many people, we all know there's a literacy crisis going on. People don't read. We occupy our times by being distracted on our phones. And I think this really helps to re-engage the user, the audience, into kind of seeing the importance and what you can still get out of reading the classic, which in turn I think would help with the literacy crisis. But not only would it help really shape the minds of people, really see those common themes, because even in the beginning I could tell that a lot of what was going on with the king's name?
Which one? Odysseus or
yes, Odysseus. The one, he was the one that came back, correct?
Yeah.
Like, I could see like the themes of PTSD. Like, I could tell that was obvious, you know? And some of those themes still exist today because it's a human experience that, as long as we engage in certain types of, human behavior, we're gonna see these themes come over again and again. So it's not just something boring to read, you know, it's really something that you can take and still find those like key lessons or philosophical principles or whatever the case may be, and apply it into your own life. I actually like that people are critiquing the dialogue. I think it's really great because a lot of times people don't read the classics because of the dialogue. It is hard to read. Even I think, is it Zora Neale Hurston that people say, I think it's her, or Toni Morrison, one of them, maybe Toni Morrison, but they say her books are hard to read because of the dialogue, you know? So I think this helps create a healthy challenge in the mind of the audience of like, oh, this is what I got from this. It's really interesting, depending on how curious it can spark some people, you know, because a lot of people used to be readers like me, you know. It can make them find the fun in the challenge of, let me go back, read these classics. Will the dialogue be difficult? Maybe, probably, but the reward will be so much bigger because the stories, the plots, you know, again, the things in modern day storytelling that feels like it's missing. Like, I could get a lot more excitement and dopamine from reading the classics, and part of that dopamine is getting over the hurdle, which is the dialogue. So it brings the user into the audience into the fold. That's how I see it, and that's what it says to me as a person that used to read 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 page books and thoroughly enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? So
I was not fully like following. Like, I feel like there was a lot of references to the history as well as the outside lore of the book that were made, in terms of like whose kingdom is who's on what side. When they reference, they reference going west, they reference different islands or countries and things. I wasn't really following who was on whose side, but I feel like when it mattered, like it's okay in a story to leave questions open at times. It's okay to be like, okay, I don't have the reference that they're making in my mind, so I have questions about that statement. However, when it matters, when a conflict happens, when the characters arrive somewhere, a conversation happens with, people who are important for the different areas or whatever, it makes sense, and I'm caught up then. So I will say that I think that, some people who like to have all the answers all the time throughout the story may consider that like a tick mark against it. For me, it was more like, as long as I get the answers eventually, I'm fine with that. Also, another thing that Christopher Nolan is good at, and I was thinking about, like, usually we put Christopher Nolan in the category of being like a real storyteller, like a real visionary. Like, they make stories that are, character, plot, and we put that in an opposite category from stories that are all about the flashiness, the oh, this looks good, the poster shot, stuff like that. But I will say one thing that this movie made me realize about Christopher Nolan is he is very good at finding an aesthetic moment, background shot, or a person, and like going all in on that. And I respect that, because usually it is true that directors, writers who are really honed in on the writing, the characters, the emotions and all that, they usually aren't as tapped into the visuals and making it look pretty and making it look, whatever, clean and polished or whatever. But all that to say, Agamemnon did nothing this movie but fucking aura farm. This nigga,
yeah.
Agamemnon, literally, in every scene he was in where he had the armor on with the helmet, he just stood there and just owned the shot that he was in. And it's like, that's perfect. Like, I can tell, you can tell they were shooting the movie like, oh, the way he looks, this is gonna be perfect for the poster, or this is gonna be perfect for, whatever screenshot you need to pull from this movie. One thing I saw on social media, Kevin on Stage did say that Christopher Nolan sometimes he makes the music or the sound effects too loud. Very fair. Very fair. I'm not gonna say they could be turned down. I actually like a loud theater experience with the sound effects and the music, but very fair. It was pretty loud. It was pretty loud. I wouldn't take the movie for that, but it was pretty loud.
I didn't notice it, honestly. I know there's some things I didn't catch, and it could just be because of like trying to just understand what is being said and really making sure I'm like comprehending it. But again, with me, I have a little bit of, auditory processing delays. So at times I would like miss little snippets, but it's very rare.
Anyway, go see The Odyssey. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.